Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Film Club podcast, where every week we find a new movie to sit down and talk about. And this month we're going through the illustrious films of John Carpenter.
Which means we finally landed on the episode that Dean's been the excitedest to record, I think, ever since we decided to do the podcast.
This is definitely top 5 all time.
So today we're going to be talking about
John Carpenter's 1982 cinematic masterpiece, The Thing. Remake of A Thing from Another World. It is quite possibly the greatest remake ever made. It is quite possibly the greatest horror film ever made. It is, in my opinion, John Carpenter's greatest film.
And it just celebrated its 40th anniversary, correct?
Yes, it did. This movie comes out in 1982. It releases the same year as E.T., Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, releases the same day as Blade Runner, and the same week as Mad Max 2: The Road Warrior. Yeah, so this came out in a stacked year.
Yeah, and E.T. beat it. And Blade Runner.
Yeah. This, that is the sad truth of The Thing, is that, this movie came out and everyone fucking hated it.
Yeah.
Everyone hated it.
Yeah, I know it's said that this is John Carpenter's favorite film that he's created.
Yeah.
And I know that he was super bummed out when it just kind of, didn't hit the mark. But I mean, there is a huge cult following behind this film.
Well, now,
yeah,
this is the crazy thing, because the movie comes out 82. I guess we'll get into like the context, like the release of it, because it comes out in 1982, and the critics bomb it. It is just a gore fest. It is tantamount to a geek show. It is, the characters don't make sense. The characters are bad. It's a horrible film. All the critics say so. Mm-hmm. All the fans, like the audience, say, yeah, you're on the mark. The characters are lame, the story's dumb, the only good thing about this is the creature effects, which are just gross, for the sake of being gross.
Yeah.
And it's weird, because usually there's like, oh, the critics hate it, but the fans are a little bit more warm to it, or the fans hate it, but the critics love it.
Yeah.
This, everyone hated it. There was a legit article, I think by the New Yorker in 1982-83, that said, is John Carpenter's The Thing the most hated film ever made?
Oh, wow.
Oh, it gets better. Because not only did Roger Ebert say, this movie, though the creature effects are kind of good, that's all it is. It's just an effects show. Other than that, pretty garbage. The original director of the original The Thing from Another World, he said, man, I really wish there were characters in this. I really wish that this was good. I completely disowned this and John Carpenter. Yeah, no, everyone hated it. It wasn't until, I want to say until like the early 2000s, maybe into the 90s, where people reevaluated The Thing and said it was good.
Yeah, that's kind of a rocky start.
A little bit, especially considering that this is John Carpenter's, pretty much his big studio debut.
Yeah.
Because this is done by Universal Studios. It was Universal's attempt to kind of take back the reins as being the horror movie studio of Hollywood. Because, their pedigree, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Frankenstein, Wolfman, Dracula.
Creature from the Black Lagoon, The Bride of Frankenstein, so on.
Yes. So, in the 80s, they said, we're going to come back. They had John Landis, who did American Werewolf in London, I think the year before. They had John Carpenter, who was going to do The Thing. That was going to be their big summer blockbuster horror film. Mm-hmm. And they had David Cronenberg do Videodrome. And he was going to basically try and make Universal's attempt at like a horror movie that can win an Oscar. Mm-hmm. And that was going to come out like the year after. And it's weird because American Werewolf in London does what it needs to do. It's a big crowd-pleasing popcorn flick.
Amazing movie.
Super fun. We did it on the podcast.
Yeah,
it's a super fun movie. Videodrome, maybe not as well received as they wanted, but it was a hit with the critics. It made a lot of buzz about Cronenberg being this auteur. And The Thing bombed horribly. This pretty much broke John Carpenter. Like, after this, he does Christine just for the money.
Yeah.
Like, he's pretty open that Christine was his, like, bounce back to show that he could still make a profitable movie.
And I love Christine.
And Christine's actually a pretty good movie. For a movie that John Carpenter says he phoned in the entire thing and just did it with no passion, it's a really solid flick.
We were having a conversation recently in the car, and I think we were talking about Christine, and you had said that he hadn't watched it since he made it, and then you were saying that in his commentary he's like, oh hey, this is actually a pretty good movie.
Yeah, John Carpenter hadn't seen Christine since probably the movie premiered back in 84, 83, and when he watched it, he was going into it being like, I did this for the fucking money. I'm doing the commentary for the money. And he's watching, he's like, man, actually, this is a pretty good watch. Like, no, like, there's still tension going on, the camera's still working. Man, even when I phone it in, I can still put together a pretty decent flick. And that's the thing about Carpenter at this point in his career, because The Thing is the height of his powers.
Yeah.
Like, this is him, master filmmaker, fully formed. If Escape from New York was the complete John Carpenter, this is John Carpenter unhinged. He's dropped the weights.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating because this is him with creative control. This is him total freedom.
And tons of money.
And tons of money. Because Escape from New York was a $6 million budget, makes 25 at the box office. This is a $15 million budget, makes about 15 at the box office.
Yeah.
Which is really, really bad. Really bad.
Yeah.
And it's kind of crazy because when you look at the production history of it, the Universal only gave him like, I think it was like $100,000 for the special effects of the movie, maybe $2. And then he basically put his foot down and said, no one's gonna come to your fucking monster movie for $100,000 effects. I want 2.5 for my effects. Which he fucking got. And then he got Rob Bottin in, who made some of the greatest special effects in cinema history.
I mean, wasn't he also like 22?
Yeah, he was 22. He was, I think, the protege of Rick Baker.
Yeah.
Who did American Werewolf in London. I'm pretty sure he also did Star Wars. And like Rob Bottin was his protege. He goes over to him when he's like 18. I think he like graduates high school and says, I want to be in the movie making business, and goes up to his door and says, hey, can I help you? And he's like, sure. And he sleeps in like his shed as he learns his craft.
Mm-hmm.
And this is him fully like giving full reins, real budget, real money to show what he can do with almost nothing. And it's insane because every shot is like a different practical effect.
It is, and it's disgusting.
Okay, I need to ask you this, because you haven't seen the movie in like 10 years, and the only thing you remembered from it was gross.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think after watching it, I had like compiled all the gross effects and gross scenes together. So I remember it being a lot gorier than it was. So I was kind of surprised watching it last night, and I'm like, oh, hey, the gore is really kind of spaced out throughout the movie.
There's 3 or 4 big gore scenes in the movie.
Yeah, so I was just kind of surprised, but still gross. Just, the things that they come up with. And
Things.
Exactly. And it's the perfect way to describe this alien creature is a thing, because you can't really put your finger on it, because it's just something weird and gross every time you see it.
And that's the thing. When I was watching the movie, all the practical effects of the monsters look both like totally organic and completely alien. Like, it looks like something that should be able to like move and breathe and function.
Yeah.
But it's nothing that I could ever say could be a real thing. And it's fascinating how well it is. And I think it goes to the fact that they're just covered in slime, because it's just that, I think that's what makes it really gross and makes things look so soft and malleable.
Yeah, it's just ugh.
The movie made your skin crawl?
A little bit. I had to look away, especially the dog scene. I was like, I just can't.
Oh, but that's one of the best parts of the movie.
Mm.
And that is Carpenter, master filmmaker.
Yeah.
And him paired with Dean Cundey, who's returning from Escape from New York and Halloween. And I believe he still uses Dean Cundey all the way up until I want to say he still does They Live with Dean Cundey, or I think he does at least Starman with Dean Cundey, because after that Dean Cundey goes on to do like Back to the Future, Jurassic Park, Jack and Jill, which is weird. When
You're always throwing Jack and Jill in there.
It's fascinating that Dean Cundey, who you could argue is like top 5 cinematographers of like at least the last 40 years, because he does Halloween, he does The Thing, he does all 3 Back to the Futures, he does Jurassic Park. He basically, they find out, oh, if you want to do a special effects driven film, you get Dean Cundey. He did Who Framed Roger Rabbit, for
Another
God's
great
sakes.
film.
A masterful film.
Yeah.
And then he does the Garfield movie, and then he does Jack and Jill, and it's like, what happened, man? Did Spielberg stop returning our calls? What happened?
He was just doing it for the money.
Just for the money.
Yeah, just for the money.
He
But
sold out, man.
I don't think he sold out, but it's just, hey, it's an easy payday. Let's do it.
But leading into this thing about, Dean
The
thing about The Thing. Dean Cundey, he's, doing Jack and Jill or whatever. He did it for, like, the money.
Yeah.
But something else is, did you know the original director they wanted for The Thing was Tobe Hooper?
Really? Tobe Hooper of Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yes, the guy that, we watched, like, the 4 films in his landmark franchise, like, last month.
Yes.
Yes.
Wow. Okay, I did not know that.
Yeah, and it's really crazy because The Thing is not a John Carpenter brain, like, project, right?
Yeah.
This isn't a passion project. He loves the original, like, because he loves Howard Hawks, and Howard Hawks kind of ghost-directed the original Thing from Another World, and he pays homage to it in Halloween, but John Carpenter never really wants to do it. He wants to do El Diablo, which is his Western film he wanted to do forever with Elvis and John Wayne, but by 1982, that is, not gonna happen.
Yeah.
And he thinks he's about to get El Diablo made. And Tobe Hooper signs on to do The Thing remake, and he puts in what is described by Universal execs as the worst script ever written. It was going to be a slapstick comedy that would be involving an alien invasion that would turn into some sort of carrot monster and would not shapeshift. And it's some weird slapsticky black comedy. And, like, every producer, I've never seen the script, but everyone who's ever read it describes it as the worst thing they've ever read. And he was completely serious.
Huh. I mean, I love carrots. I wouldn't want to see them,
Be monsters.
be monsters, shed in a bad light. I'm also thinking, would that have been worse than Texas Chainsaw 4?
Ooh, that's a good question. Well, Texas Chainsaw 2, because he directed 2.
I know, but I mean, if we're talking about the franchise...
Is 4 the worst Texas Chainsaw film ever made?
It's pretty bad.
I mean, I know people got a lot of hate for the remakes, but the remakes are competent. Like, they're structured films.
Yeah.
They might be boring or bland, but they're movies. Next Generation is an abomination.
Yeah, because I mean, just Leatherface, that was a boring movie.
Yeah, like Leatherface was just boring. It wasn't bad. It was just lackluster.
Had no zest.
Yeah, it was just super generic.
And then, Next Generation was just kind of like, what the fuck? So, I don't know. Yeah, that sounds pretty bad. I've seen remakes of The Thing. There's, like, a current one, maybe, like, the past 5 years has come out.
Oh, no, it's actually from 2012, 2013.
Well, it's
the one with Mary Elizabeth Winstead, and it's, like, a prequel to John Carpenter's The Thing. Takes place on the Swedish base.
Maybe.
I know that's the one. That's
maybe.
the only remake they made of The Thing.
But yeah, it's like, I liked that one. So, there are competent remakes that can be made. But I'm like, that would never have worked.
Oh, God,
I mean,
no.
if this one bombed at the time, this one just would have imploded, died, and...
It would have been one of the biggest box office failures,
yes,
right?
of all time.
And that's the thing. Leading into this, I want it to be very clear that John Carpenter, he doesn't have a real big hand in getting this really developed until he's signed on, because the person who writes this script is Bill Lancaster. He's the son of Burt Lancaster.
Yeah.
His previous films he has written in his illustrious career is Bad News Bears.
Okay.
And Bad News Bears Go to Japan. And
Alright.
The Thing, and that is all 3 of his films he's ever written.
Wow.
Yes, so really hits it out of the park on the Thing here.
Yeah.
So he comes in, he does the script, John Carpenter reads it, and he's sold on the testing scene where McCready's there with the blood sample test and it's the hot wire. He reads that scene and he says, "Oh, that's the movie. I can make this. This is the perfect take." He gets on to do this, and for the first time in Carpenter's career, he has the money to actually allocate work to everyone else. He doesn't have to be the guy who does the score, who does all the pre-production, who has to source costumes from his actors. He doesn't have to basically do the entire crew's job on his back. He gets Ennio Morricone to do the score.
You're one of your personal heroes.
Ennio Morricone is quite literally one of the greatest composers to have ever lived.
And his music that wasn't used in this score was used in The Hateful Eight, right?
Yes, and fun fact, Ennio Morricone's score for The Thing gets nominated for a Razzie.
Mm-hmm.
And Ennio Morricone's score for Hateful Eight gets nominated for a fucking Oscar.
Yeah.
I feel people at the time just didn't get it. But we'll get to that in a minute.
Didn't get it. Didn't want to give it a chance.
Which is weird.
Yeah.
I'm granted, this comes out the same time as like E.T., and everybody's in the mood for kind of more heartwarming, more family-friendly alien kind of vibe.
Well, yeah, because prior to this we have Alien, and it's just,
And Alien comes out in 79.
79, yeah. So we've had, nothing really but scary, destructive aliens, and then we get, the family-friendly alien that's not here to hurt anybody, just hits you in the feels.
And the other thing is, I feel like we by 82, we hit the changing times, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where, because in the 80s, that's Amblin. That's, Spielberg's run of just changing the movie landscape. Big family-friendly, big crowd pleasers. I mean, the two highest grossing films of this year are E.T. and Tootsie.
Yeah. Big,
broad comedies. You can take your kids to them. You can have a fun time.
Yeah, I feel the 80s, the movies were more on the comedic side. I mean, we have,
big bombastic action films,
Yeah.
good horror films, good slashers, but those are relegated to the genre, runoff, right?
Yeah, we're getting the John Hughes 80s movies. We're getting, the teen movies. So it's kind of...
The Chris Columbus, the Home Alones, all those.
Yeah, so it's really a mixed bag of movies, so I kind of feel like it was just, I'm kind of tired of seeing the gore, and I want to, go to the theater and laugh and have a good time.
Yeah, I feel like The Thing is a holdover from, that 70s kind of, more bleak, more downer kind of filmmaking that bled over into the 80s.
Yeah.
And that's probably why it didn't do so well. And it really sucks because John Carpenter, this is his chance to be the auteur, full control, with the money to back it. This is the first, probably the only time in his career where he has both the money, the skill, and the
team.
And the team to get it done. Because, again, this is an all-star crew right here. He has Kurt Russell at the helm. He already worked with him with Escape from New York. Kurt Russell is his guy. Kurt Russell will show up, do the work, and do anything asked of him.
Was Big Trouble before or after this?
Big Trouble's after this. Big Trouble's probably 3 or 4 years after this.
Okay.
And that's the thing, because he does Big Trouble. I think Big Trouble's in 86, 87 after this, and that's the bookends of, the run, right, for Kurt Russell. And this is a really different Kurt Russell performance.
Oh, yeah.
Because in Escape from New York, he's kind of a sarcastic parody, and in Big Trouble, he is an over-the-top goofball.
Mm-hmm.
And in this, he's like a traumatized, real, dude. He's
depressed.
He's depressed. He's an alcoholic. He has this whole backstory that Carpenter has never even thought of putting in the movie. Because he's I don't want to put whole backstories in here. People know who you are. You're fucking McCready. That's who you are. And
I was just well, who is he?
What? You didn't get it? He's
depressed and drunk. I got that. That was one of my gripes about the movie, is that, I know you had said the critics had said it too about the characters. Mm-hmm. It's I think we needed a little bit more backstory. The only character where I really feel we know them is, what was his name? The guy with the dogs.
Oh, Clark?
Clark. It's like, okay, he loves these dogs.
He's yeah, when
he is a dog person. So I was like, okay.
When Benning gets shot, he goes and comforts the dog and not his friend who's been shot in the leg.
Exactly. So I was just like, okay, I got that. He's an animal lover. Cool. But the rest of them, it's like, I really don't have a feel of you as like, a whole individual.
Really?
Yeah, because I mean, we don't really get to know them. It starts off with the dog being chased by the helicopter. Mm-hmm. And then,
which is a great opening, right? Gets you right into the action.
Gets you into the action, and I'm just like, leave the dog alone. And the helicopter blows up, and I was like, thank you, karma, thank you.
And then later on in the movie, you find out it's like, God, why didn't they get the dog? They were so close.
I know. It's just like, it makes total sense now, but not the dog.
That's why the movie bombed. It was people didn't want them to kill the dog.
Hey, anytime you hurt an animal in a movie, it's going to be problematic.
The dog was an alien.
But, I know.
I'm surprised.
It wasn't his fault.
Whatever. I'm surprised, like, you think the characters were just kind of blanks? I thought every character had, maybe not like a full, 3-dimensional backstory, because if each one had this be a 3-hour movie. But I feel each one had its own, I could describe each one of these guys in 1 or 2 sentences.
I don't feel like I can. I feel like we just kind of drop in on them, just like this, helicopter does. And then we run from there. So we don't really get too much backstory. We don't get too much interaction. It's just a bunch of guys just sitting in this facility, basically waiting for springtime.
Yeah, I mean, well, okay. Let me line it. Let me throw it out to you. Okay. All right, because I can hit at least a few of them right now. Because Clark, yeah, you said he was the most. He was the one you felt you knew the most about. Kind of a loner, loves animals, kind of keeps to himself. But like Childs, he's kind of a no nonsense, kind of an asshole.
Pissed off.
He's like. Everything's like, just don't talk to me about this voodoo mumbo jumbo. I want the truth. There ain't no such thing as aliens. He's totally against this whole voodoo bullshit. He's kind of an asshole. You have Knowles, who's the cook. He likes listening to Stevie Wonder, rolls around in his skates. He's the most young and kind of like, he's using this as like a vacation. He feels a lot more like new to this than anybody else. Where you, on the other side of that, you have Palmer, who's this stoner burnout. He's still wearing his Hell's Angels biker gear. He's down here because he's like, I get to smoke all the weed I want and just zone out for 6 months. Like, I feel a lot of these characters have at least character moments that gives you something about them. Even, Windows, who, we don't even know his real name, but we know enough about him that, okay, he's scared, he's paranoid, he works the communications things where he's just listening to the radio all day.
Yeah.
And when he's alone, he's just listening to music. He's kind of this person who just wants to be out of here, but he's here and he's afraid of everybody around him. He's the one who goes fully into paranoia first and freezes up like everyone else.
Yeah.
I feel everyone in the movie has moments that gives you a lot of character behind them. Is this something where I'm reading into it because I've seen the movie like 12 times?
Maybe. I mean, this is my second time seeing it, so it was just still very on the fresh side. Mm-hmm. And it's like, yeah, I could see that. I remember Knowles, being pissed off that someone, threw away underwear in his kitchen. And it's like, that's unsanitary. And I'm like, I'm right there with you. I would not want to see that in my kitchen. But it's just like, you get these tiny moments and it's like, okay, I could see a little bit of your character, but I think because it's so fast paced, we're basically in the span of a day or 24 hours maybe.
I think somebody's done the math and I think the whole movie's over the course of like a week. It's one of those things where the internet sleuths who are probably like, it takes place over the course of a week. In Carpenter's mind, it's probably like 2 or 3 days, like at max.
Yeah, because I mean, I sat there and I'm like, this feels like it's just, because the sun's out when the dog is being chased. It's later that night where the dog, transforms. So it's like, I have a feeling it's probably a single day or possibly 2 days.
Hmm.
So it's very fast paced, so you don't really get, to kind of see, oh, okay, so this is what they live like on a daily basis. It's just, okay, we're seeing a glimpse of what their monotonous days are, on this base, and then all hell breaks loose.
Yeah. I can see where you're coming from, because the movie does just goes into it.
Yeah,
like there's
it doesn't stop.
Yeah, it's an hour 49 minutes. It's super like fast paced, and the building tension and dread and stuff really starts early.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where I feel you still get a lot of good character stuff going on. Granted, it's a lot of little moments. Palmer puts in the VHS of an old game show he's seen a million times for entertainment, and him and Childs are passing a joint around because they're just killing time.
Yeah.
And then you even have somebody like Fuchs, who's, the brain, who's like the egghead who just sits in the lab all day poring over notes. He's like, well, this is my job. I'm a researcher. And this also gives me something to do other than stare at the wall all day. It's a movie about guys going stir crazy more than anything.
Yeah, and I mean, that makes total sense. You're out in the middle of nowhere. It's freezing. Mm-hmm. And,
there's no women around. Women are smart enough not to go to Antarctica for work.
For 6 months at a time, yeah. And then just, the sheer horror of, are we going to survive the 6 months? Not because of an alien, but just because...
You can get snowed out.
They
talk all the time about there's a storm coming. It's so cold. Also, when they do the shot, when the dog's running in of that giant tundra, where there's nothing but snow for miles, in its real location, that it gives such a tone and such a mood to the opening of the film that pours through the whole thing.
Well, yeah, but
bleak,
I mean...
they are alone, they are isolated.
But that plays into kind of, just being a human being and seeing that and feeling like, wow, if I were in, their place, I would be terrified just being completely in the middle of nowhere.
You know something I just realized? We should probably tell people what the movie's about, seeing as we're like a half hour in.
Oh, we kind of, skirted around it, but...
Yeah.
But go ahead, tell everybody what the movie's about.
Alright, this is the back-of-the-box synopsis. So, in the winter of 1982, a 12-man research team at a remote Antarctic research station discover an alien, buried in the snow for over 100,000 years. And soon, unfrozen, the form-changing alien wreaks havoc, creating terror and becoming one of them. And throughout the movie, we have the 12-man crew grow in paranoia and fear. Which one of them is the Thing? We, as the audience, don't know. The same as the characters. And it unfolds in this massive climax that is awesome, because they just blow everything up. It's great. But yeah, I think the movie as a whole is just such a well thought out horror film and a horror experience, because none of the characters do anything dumb. Does any character make a dumb, illogical decision?
Signing up to go away for 6 months?
Okay, stop that right there. We need men on the wall, damn it. You need men like me on that wall. You can't handle the truth. They're down there because you can't handle the truth of the aliens on the Antarctic Circle.
I mean, I don't want to be around, the aliens that are just, waiting to feed and build their ship to fly away.
Okay. Leaving away the fact that they were dumb enough to sign up for a 6 months excursion to Antarctica, in the terms of the movie, within the hour 49, does anyone do anything dumb?
I feel like someone has to do something dumb, and I just can't think of it.
No, it's because no one does anything dumb. That's why I love this movie so much. It is a horror film where no one is irrational. No one does anything stupid. No one does anything that you, under the same circumstances, wouldn't logically come to that same conclusion. When Wilford Brimley's character, see, I can do English, when he finds out this thing could infect the entire world in less than 6 months.
Yeah.
It could infect the entire world, completely take over, and it'd be unstoppable. First thing he does is a very logical decision. I have to not let this thing get off the base. I'm going to cut off the communications. I'm going to blow up or I'm going to disable the helicopters, the tractors, to make sure whatever that thing is here. It can't escape, it can't get out, and we're just going to take care of it here. And yeah, he goes crazy, blasting everything, blowing everything up, but it's a completely rational thing when he understands the reality of it.
Yeah, because it will spread. If it could spread amongst 12 men, guarantee it could spread, across the globe.
Yeah, with how little it needs to spread, completely logical decision. And then you have McCready, who is like, okay, this thing, if it wants to, it'll just run out into the snow and get frozen.
And it'll wait.
And it'll just wait. It did it before. Did it for 100,000 years. We can't let it do that. We have to blow it up. We have to kill it. We're gonna die doing it, but we have to save the world. And that's the thing. All the little decisions throughout the movie, no one does anything dumb. Even Fugues, who, is the brainhead, he makes a completely logical statement of, hey, this thing, I don't know how much it needs to infect you, but it's probably not a lot. Everyone needs to prepare their own meals, only eat out of cans.
Yeah.
Only things that are sealed. And it's like, that's a completely logical conclusion to what's going on. That's 100% logical. And even when Blair, he kills the dogs, because they were infected.
Yeah.
And I know, the dogs, why you kill the dogs, but obviously he had to, because they were infected. And all these little decisions, all these little things work out to make a completely intelligently written, smart, well-acted masterpiece. Because the tension and the paranoia is palatable through every scene. Am I reading too much into it?
So your original question was, does anyone do anything stupid?
Yes, does anyone do anything stupid? Well,
okay.
I was about 10 minutes ago, but did anyone do anything stupid?
I have one.
Okay.
McCready's choice in hat.
No, that sombrero is masterful.
That's not a sombrero.
What is it? Whatever it is,
like,
it's ballin'.
It's like a cowboy hat that he kind of looks like Yosemite Sam in that hat.
And that's a bad thing?
Oh,
come on.
I mean, I like his outfit. I love, the jacket, the pants, the boots, the hair.
The fact that Kurt Russell looks more attractive the more unkempt he looks.
Yeah, there's some guys where that's, their style, and it works.
The long hair and the big bushy beard.
Yeah, and the leather jacket. The whole thing, but yeah, I'm not too big on the hat.
I don't think that's a bad decision. Might be a bad choice, but not a bad decision.
Also, I was waiting for, we have the iconic poster of The Thing.
Oh,
Which I love, because that's a cool poster. I don't know who did the artwork for that. But, I was waiting for the person, with the coat and the light coming out of their face. I was like, okay, it's going to be one of these guys, when they go out in the snow. And I was like, it never happens.
Yeah, the posters, somebody gave the poster artist, I think, just a brief synopsis of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even think they saw the movie. They just came up with a poster, which,
like, fucking badass.
It's a badass, iconic poster, but tells you nothing about the movie.
So that's why, anytime one of the guys, that had been affected, like, threw themselves outside, and Kurt Russell's, getting the flamethrower ready, I'm like, this is the moment. I'm like, okay, we're gonna, get blinded by the light. No weekend, just blinded by the light. But, I was like, really? We don't get that?
I mean, that's a gripe I think people have had with the movie, was the poster tells you nothing.
No, and I mean, even NECA, with their toys, they came out with the Thing toy, where it's the light coming out of the... And I'm like, okay, so I'm like...
That has to be in the movie, right?
That's why I'm like, I'm tying it all together. Okay, poster, the NECA toy, that's gotta be it. And I'm like, no, it never happens.
I wonder if that's why people didn't like the movie, was going into the movie, it tells you nothing.
No.
You have you don't really have any idea what the movie's about based on the poster. It looks interesting, and it's like, oh, it's gonna be this cool sci-fi action film. And then it's a very slow burn... paranoid thriller horror film. That's what it is at its heart. So I can kind of see why it failed in that regard, but man, this movie is great. But
yeah, I mean, I thought it was gonna be like the deadlights in It.
Oh yeah.
So I thought, is that gonna be another one of? I mean, it's already bad enough that this alien can infect you and take over relatively fast. But I'm like, is it a thing where it, like, shoots out light and, that could possibly infect you too, or that can kill you? I was like, okay, that's a cool little twist. And I'm like, no, it didn't happen.
Is that the thing you're most disappointed about, was the poster didn't give you anything?
I think so.
Okay. Well, how about this? Because I can gush about the movie all day. Like, I can go into...
You do?
I do. Oh my god, again, it's one of my favorite films of all time. But what about the movie, I guess, to you, was a standout? That you...
The cinematography.
Oh, it's beautiful, right?
Yeah.
The blue wash, the things that are lit in flare and flame.
Yeah, I mean, Halloween will remain my, all-time favorite horror film, one of my all-time favorite movies. But the cinematography on this film is just so crisp and so clean that you feel like you're out there with them. And it's like, okay, yeah, like that, kind of ups the fear factor a little bit because it's so realistic. You feel like I'm on the base with them. This thing, could possibly infect me. And I will just, kind of give that to Dean Cundey because that's just, his talent where he makes you kind of feel immersed in his films.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the way the movie's shot and that blue wash, which I think is a holdover from Halloween, right? Because when they're at night, they have the blue light filter coming in to say it's nighttime. But I think in this, it's supposed to be like emergency lights and whatnot. But how the colors look are so beautiful. I recently bought a 4K Blu-ray player.
That you've been wanting for a while now.
Wanted it for a while, and I finally got a chance to watch The Thing on it, and oh my god, this movie's so beautiful. It's so clean. And speaking of Dean Cundey and the cinematography, is the man can light a scene.
Oh, yeah.
Masterfully. And also the fact that John Carpenter is always able to use all the parts of his frame. And this is that big, beautiful Panasonic, or Panavision film. And how some of the shots, I think it's right when Clark's about to like jump MacReady and we have his hand in the foreground where it's the scalpel and he's getting ready, and then you have MacReady there and he has the gun pointed out and Child's on the other end, has the gun pointed at him, and I'm like, oh, I can look at this frame forever because everything's such a wonderful focus. And it's a thing where, oh yeah, John Carpenter drew the storyboard. Dean Cundey, he was able to make that shit come to life.
Yeah.
And speaking of how the movie makes you feel, how it looks, it feels cold.
Yeah.
Like we've been just getting out of a heat wave, and you watch this movie, and it's like, whew, it's a little chilly in here.
Well, I mean, let alone yesterday was supposed to be like one of our, starting to go back to normal temperatures. So like, okay, it's gonna be like a crisp 84 day in California, which is, we're all very grateful and anticipating. It jumped to 91 yesterday, so I was just like, bruh, even when they tell you it's gonna be cool, it's not cool. But watching it, I felt like, wow, I'm really out in the Arctic. I'm stuck. It's beautiful, but I would not want to be here right now. And that's why I think I really loved the cinematography for this movie, because it transported me to where they were. And, Halloween, I feel the same way, but at the same time, we don't live too far away from where the movie was shot, so we could actually physically walk up and down the streets and see the houses from the film. So it's like, we can live that.
Yeah, and also, Halloween, it really wants to be Illinois, but it's really hard when there's palm trees in the background kind of thing.
Yeah, but I'm, just saying, we can, just drive and go experience that. And in this movie, we can't, because, fuck no, we're not going to the Arctic.
Yeah.
But
crazy. Oh, sorry. Keep going.
No, but
sorry, I keep interrupting.
No, it's okay. But I was just saying, that is his talent, that he can transport you to the places in his films.
Oh yeah. I mean, crazy thing about this is they didn't actually shoot on location in the Arctic. They went up to, I think it was the north of Canada, like British Columbia or some such. Yeah. And they shot on location there. So all the outdoor scenes are actually in sub-zero freezing temperature. That's why you see all the steam coming out of their mouths and all the breaths, and you see everyone feels cold. They're all bundled up. It doesn't feel like, oh, they're on a set and they're, playing it's cold. Like in the old Hollywood movies where it's raining asbestos and you have to act like it's freezing.
Yeah, but when they were shooting on sound stages, John Carpenter made sure that he dropped the temperature down to 40 degrees because he wanted everyone to feel like, you were there, you were freezing, you're trying to rationalize between I need to keep myself warm and I need to survive.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess when this was shot, it was shot during another heat wave.
Oh, yeah.
So it was 100 plus outside, and then working in 40 degrees is like shit. Like that. If we had that option right now, like, sign me up. I'll work in a 40-degree studio right now.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's the same thing they did in The Exorcist, where the whole house or whatever, it's like normal, but inside Regan's room for
cold.
The Exorcist, it was a meat locker.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's one of those things where the movie's so smart, and goddamn, John Carpenter given the real money and being able to just display his talents, it really is his most well-made film. Everyone's on the ball. The entire ensemble, I know you have issue because, you don't feel like all of them have a well-developed character, their bodies for the most part, but I think they all give great performances in the ensemble.
Yeah, it's not an issue about performance. It's just I don't feel like I know these people.
Mm-hmm.
The only connection I have is Kurt Russell, and even Keith David, because I've seen him in a lot of movies, and Wilford Brimley because diabetes.
Yeah, fun fact, this is like Keith David's first actual movie. He had one credit before this, and it was an uncredited extra in Disco Godfather.
Huh.
Yeah, this is like his first movie. I think Wilford Brimley, he's like 40 something in this, and he does Cocoon like 2 or 3 years later, and that's like his big break. A lot of the actors here are like really well seasoned, working character actors for the most part. I mean, Keith David, he goes on, he does some more Carpenter films. Famously, he's in They Live.
Yeah.
And he goes on and he does a lot of voice work now. Like, he's a pretty solid, like, acting career after this. Kurt Russell, need I say more?
Yeah.
Wilford Brimley, he has a good career after this. Everyone here kind of goes on and does a little bit more after the Thing comes out. But at the time, Carpenter was doing what he always does. I want good workers.
Yeah.
I want guys who can show up, do the work, do what I ask them. I don't want prima donnas. I want the work done. And that's Carpenter's motto. It's like, I'm not here to make art. I'm here to make movies. I'm here to make pictures, damn it. We're going to make movie pictures.
Yeah, but for me, I felt like I needed more, backstory.
Yeah, I understand. I mean, you get that in the remake. I mean, not of these guys, but, the Norwegians.
Yeah.
Have you've seen the remake?
Yeah, I liked it.
I thought it wasn't actually as bad as everybody said it was, but I found out like why pretty much everyone who worked on the movie disowned it. About like the CGI and the effects on it, where they were doing it and they were gonna make it a complete practical effects. They wanted it to, because it's remaking The Thing.
Yeah.
Which, say what you will about the movie, the effects in the movie are excellent. And they did the whole thing practically, and then Universal got cold feet at the last minute because they didn't like the final alien, so they went in and tweaked everything with CGI to the point until everything was CGI'd. So none of the practical effects ever showed up. They were just covered in computers, which really made the movie feel bad, but I mean, movies at that moment, it was still pretty good for what it was. I just really wish we could see it where it was all the practicals instead of all the CG, but
yeah, I get that. What else did you want to talk about The Thing?
Well,
because this is
The Thing.
Yes.
I guess. Well, let's hit on to, I guess, the major scene of the film, and then we'll get into the ending and kind of what the movie's about.
Okay.
Because the major scene of this movie that I think everyone has an idea of is the blood test scene.
Yeah.
Where it's MacReady and he's got the dish of blood and he's testing it with the flames, and then you have the big jump scare that happens, and it's a really well done jump scare. There's tension, there's build up, everyone's on edge, it's so quiet, and then pop goes the weasel and everybody starts freaking out. It's a big action beat. But
people are stuck to the roof.
Yeah, people are getting flung around by their head because they're bloodied and everything. But I love that scene because it's great tension. It's a perfect setup. It's a perfect payoff. There's a lot of character moments in here. The craft of it is so well done. And that really encapsulates the entire movie, is that scene. Where everyone is on edge. No one trusts anybody. There's no real way to tell if this test works, which us as the audience were of the opinion, how does McCready even know this is going to work? He's just guessing. And that's the thing. In this situation, I got to take a guess. I got to see if this works.
Well, yeah, it's trial and error. You don't know who it's in. So it's like you got to, resort to anything at this point to figure out who's infected.
Who's the thing.
Or if they're all infected. And
once he finally gets, pop goes the weasel. Oh shit, it works. It's real. And then we see what happens when the thing's found out, and it's a fucking killing machine.
Yeah.
And I love that scene. I love that scene. And it's been parodied a bunch of times. It's been parodied in, South Park, I know, for, one of the Lice episodes. I know it's been stolen for, the X-Files. I know they did a Thing homage in, the earlier seasons.
Another one of your favorite things.
I really like the X-Files. The first couple seasons are great. But I wanted to know, what's your favorite scene of the movie?
My favorite scene? Probably when they're blowing stuff up at the end.
Oh, the climax?
Yeah.
Why?
It's just cool. They're just, setting off Molotov cocktails and, setting up dynamite and just, what did they crash through the roof or the wall with the forklift?
Yeah, they just run through it with one of the tractors and they just crack it open to get all the kerosene out.
Yeah, so it's just basically them destroying the base. I'm like, that would probably be your idea of a good time. Just,
let's smash some stuff up, boys.
Yeah, smash it up. So, yeah, that was kind of cool to see them do that. And it's like, okay, is McCready going to be the last one standing? Because it's like, he's with, 3 other guys?
Yeah, he's with Knowles and he's with Gary. And Childs, he disappears for the final act of the movie because and they don't know where Blair is. Blair's Wilford Brimley character, he got locked away when he started freaking out and trying to kill people. So he's been locked in the shed the whole movie. And then they find out he's been infected and he built a little spaceship. I wanted to see Wilford Brimley crawl into that fucking spaceship.
Yeah, that was one of those scenes where I was like, what the fuck? I mean, we see the spaceship at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, and it crashes down, and it's like, oh, this is an alien movie.
Yeah, so I'm like, all right, and then it's like, oh no, he was rebuilding it from the helicopter parts from earlier. I'm like, huh. Okay, so, yeah. It's a thing, okay.
It's a thing, in the thing.
In the thing, yeah. But, yeah, I really like just them destroying shit.
I mean, I like that scene too, especially when you get to the part where, Blair's picking him off one by one, and then he kills Gary, and then Knowles just walks down the corridor and disappears, and McCready's like, oh, nah, please tell me you just turned the corner, and he's getting the stick of dynamite ready because he's about to blow the whole thing up.
And then it turns into Tremors.
Yes, and I love that. Tremors start coming out, and then, the thing pops out from under the floorboards. And, you get the money shot.
Yeah.
The where Rob Bottin put all his fucking money into the money shot. The thing. The heads pop out. The dog thing comes out. This thing is ginormous. It's covered in goo. And what does Kurt Russell say? What does McCready say to this thing after it, yells and screams?
I think you gotta deliver it.
Well, he says, well, fuck you too, and throws the dynamite and blows up everything. And it's like, we won. Yeah, McCready, victory. Oh, yeah. And then McCready's, kind of collapses, in the burned out shelter that's left of the base. And then Childs shows up. And then it's, where were you, Childs? I was chasing Blair and I got lost in the storm. Huh. And then the fucking tension. We get the relief of pressure, and then boom, we're back into it.
Yeah.
Is Childs a thing? Is McCready a thing? Who is it? Because they sit there, they just look at each other, and they, McCready makes or Childs makes the statement, that fire is going on, it's keeping the place warm. You're gonna stay that way. Probably should find a way to keep it going. And McCready's like, how about we just sit here and see what happens? Then, dun dun, dun dun. The score kicks in. I'm literally getting fucking goosebumps. And it's the thing where it's such a bleak ending where man, humanity, we won one. And then it's just totally underpinned with, no, you don't know if you won.
Exactly. We don't know if we won, if one of them's infected, if they're both infected.
If neither of them are infected, all of our heroes die.
Mm-hmm.
If one of them is infected, well, then it's over.
Yeah.
Like the Thing won. The helicopter or the rescue team's gonna come, pick him up, and it's over.
Yeah.
And I love that Carpenter ending where it's bleak, it's sad. Like the hero wins, but it's not even a victory. It's a break even.
Yeah.
The best case scenario is a break even for humanity. God, the ending is this movie is so good. What did you think? Because I know you're a fan of endings that are a little bit more happy.
Well, I mean, not happy. It's just I like having closure. And this is not one where you get closure because it's just, well, shit. They could both be infected. One, might be. Okay, then they're going to get rescued and then it's going to be, unleashed on all humanity. Or they're both good. Or they might freeze to death.
So, did you like the ending?
I wasn't as mad as I would be.
Really?
Yeah.
Now, why is that?
Because it leaves the door open for a possible sequel.
Oh, please.
You never know.
John Carpenter famously hates all sequels to his work.
That doesn't mean studios, listen to that.
True. I mean, the studio did listen for this one because it bombed real bad.
Yeah.
Real bad.
Yeah, and I think, it works in that factor of, well, it leaves your imagination running, Did they get the thing? Or did they not?
And I love that. I love that ending. That open ending where you don't know, and then you try and rewatch the movie to get a feel for it. And Carpenter goes out of his way to make the ending as ambiguous as possible. Because there's a thing that goes on throughout the movie, and this is him paired up with like Thing.The, where Carpenter wanted a way for every character in certain scenes to be distinguishable.
Yeah.
As like they're human or not. And how Thing.The did that was he had an eye light where it would shine in your eye. So it's like, oh, that twinkle in your eye, that's the human soul. And if you notice in the blood test scene, everyone in it has it except Palmer. Palmer's eyes are like darked out. They're like shadowed.
No, I didn't notice that.
It's something super fucking subtle. And I only know that because I watched the commentary. But he gets that little light going on for all the other scenes when they're human. And then at the end, he does it half the time and then doesn't the other half of the time. And then the other thing is, MacReady, he has all the breath coming out. Obviously he's human and Childs isn't. But then you look and you're like, no, there's breath coming out of Childs' mouth. He's human. And then it's the thing, well, the booze, right? That because it's Molotov.
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, is it? MacReady probably still has a bottle of booze, and he was walking with that without the rag in it. He was probably gonna get hammered because that's what we see MacReady do the whole movie.
Yeah.
And if it's not, what if MacReady just drank a little bit of that and he's the thing, and then he just handed it to Childs, and that just infected him?
Yeah.
And it's so good. I love this ending because you can't figure it. It's wonderful. I love this ending. I love this movie. It is so good. But I digress. And now, what is the thing about? Because this is, John Carpenter, full powers, giving the full auteur treatment. What did he make his movie about?
Scary things.
Scary things?
Yeah.
I see.
Scary things in the snow.
Of course. Okay. Well, I'm talking like, what's the metaphor for the thing? What's the underlying thing of the thing?
I don't know. I've never been good at this.
Okay.
You're the one that you could, pick these things apart and you could see the metaphors and the symbolism and the depth of these films.
I can see the story in the cinema.
Yes.
Well, okay. This, again, movie comes out in 1982. This is... I don't want to be offensive, but I think it's a metaphor for, like, the AIDS crisis. Right?
Mm-hmm.
You have these guys, and they're all men in a very enclosed, intimate setting, and then something infects one of them, and it starts spreading, and it starts knocking them off one by one, and it's killing them. Kind of allegorical for what was going on in America at the time,
Mm-hmm.
The AIDS epidemic early on didn't really know how it spread. It only spread in the gay community, and it was called the gay plague, and it was these guys who were in close-knit tight communities, and it spread throughout them, and you didn't know if you had it or not, and you can carry it and give it away to other people, and it was a death sentence. I feel that's what The Thing is a metaphor for. The Thing is a metaphor for.
And it also set off paranoia.
Yeah.
Because, you couldn't see it, you didn't know how it was contracted, and I think, now, living in an age of COVID, we've experienced that where, people are still getting sick, people are asymptomatic, so you don't know if you're, seeing somebody that has it and can pass it to you. You don't know until it's too late.
Are you a thing? Mm-hmm. Am I a thing that I just don't know it?
And that was the beginning of the pandemic, where we had no idea what this was. There was no cure. There was no vaccination. There was no guarantee if this was just a seasonal thing. And here we are almost 3 years later, and we're still learning new things about it. And it's like, yeah, I could see parallels to illness and disease, where it's just that mass fear and paranoia of, okay, if we don't know how to stop this, what can we do to prevent other people from getting whatever this is?
And that's the thing about The Thing. The thing about The Thing?
Yes.
Yeah, that thing. Is the movie is so smart.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's one of these movies that is kind of immortal.
Mm-hmm.
Because all the characters are reasonable, all the characters are smart, the metaphor and the messaging about it, I feel, is still topical in one fashion or the other. I think people are still afraid of being passed on things, diseases, even with Alien. This has been compared to Alien a lot. Alien was an allegory for rape, and this is a allegory for the AIDS epidemic. I think it is such a well-crafted film. I think it's a genius film. I think this is Carpenter's best film, and no one showed up for it. And that crushes my soul. Nobody showed up for this movie.
I mean, they showed up for my favorite John Carpenter film.
It was the only movie they showed up for. It was the only movie they showed up for.
Feels good, man. Feels good.
All right. Well, we're at about the hour mark here. So, what are your thoughts on The Thing?
Better than I expected or remembered.
Mm-hmm.
Killer poster.
Great poster.
Great poster. Loved Kurt Russell's performance as Mac McCready. Yeah, I'd recommend it. I mean, now that I've seen it's not, such a gore fest like I remember.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd recommend it. I'll give it a shaky 2 thumbs up.
A scared 2 thumbs up?
Not scared, but just I'm still thinking about it, still processing it.
You're it's a good movie, you just don't know if you liked it?
I liked it, but I don't know how much I liked it.
I gotcha. I understand.
And now Dean's gonna say why it's the perfect movie, and
he
doesn't have enough thumbs to put up.
I feel I spent an hour describing why it is the perfect film. All the characters are smart, all the cinematography is beautiful, the script is immaculate, the creature effects are bombastic, the ending is perfect. I feel there is not a loose thread or loose idea in the film. It has an allegory that is both so topical and prominent of the 1980s, and it has carried on now to maintain its place as a masterpiece. This is John Carpenter's greatest film. It is one of the greatest horror films of all time. You should watch it, enjoy it, research it, love it. The Thing is perfect. I have said things are masterpieces on this show. I've said things are perfect before on this show. The Thing is actually a perfect film. 2 strong, mighty thumbs up. This movie is great.
All right, so what are we going to be watching next week?
Well, next week, we're going to watch something completely different. Because, famously, as we've discussed in this episode, The Thing bombs like crazy.
Yeah.
So he goes on, and John Carpenter's kind of disillusioned, and he's just doing things for the money, so he doesn't get completely ostracized from Hollywood. He does Christine right after this, and after that, he does a studio Oscar bait sci-fi movie. He does the movie we're going to watch next week, Starman, starring Jeff Bridges, Karen Allen. the only film in the Carpenter canon to have ever been nominated for an Oscar.
Okay, I've never seen this movie.
This is one of the only Carpenter films I've never seen.
Okay, so it's going to be a brand new movie for both of us. If you want to listen to us on a different platform than you currently are, you can find us on Anchor FM, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube.
You can go to our YouTube channel, The Film Vault. That is The Film Vault on YouTube. We release a new video every week. Sometimes we get really antsy and we release 2 every week. So come check it out, like, comment, and subscribe.
And if you want to follow us on social media, you can find us on Instagram at The Film Club Podcast, where we post daily stories, our adventures, trivia, upcoming episodes, and so much more.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen,
We'll see you next week at The Film Club.
have a good week, everybody.